All right, guys, this is the Weatherman once again. If you made it this far, that means you went through the 30-day. You probably saw the about video, or you saw one of the advertisements, or saw me on a stream, and you made your way to the website. You signed up for the 30-day trial. You went through the entire setup process. Maybe took you about you know 45 minutes to an hour to get all set up, and you should have exactly what I have on your screen right now for this video. So this video is going to be an introduction and explanation of most of the items on the screen. I'm going to walk through it as thoroughly as I can without getting too complex, and then I'm going to add videos underneath over time going into more detail on each section, or as questions come up from new people, things that need to be explained in a more thorough manner, I'll make videos on those as we need them. The launch is going to be May 1st. So I'll always be adding to the content as needed, and I will always be available through the stream, or you can sign up for one of the demo meetings through X Spaces through the calendar on the homepage of the website. Um, and and then I'll just be talking to the people in the spaces through the stream to explain anything further. So let's go ahead and get into it. The first thing I want to talk about is the EMAs that are on the chart. Um, so I'm just going to explain the speed of the EMA, what they're used for, and where they are on the chart. So we have 5 EMAs that we use. These are estimated moving averages. There's a video in the basic concepts that explain to you exactly what an EMA is. And you can break out and watch those, or you probably, if you've gotten this far, you've probably already watched those. So the 20 EMA is the yellow dot dot dash, 50 EMA is the orange dot dot dash, 200 EMA is the white dot dot dash. Now the control EMA is a solid green, that's the fast, and the second control EMA is the slower one, that's the red. So these the 20, the 50, and the 200 are typical resistance and support points, and these are good places to set limit trades if the conditions are right. So if we're finding resistance at the 20 to go, to go long or higher, you would maybe set a limit near the 20 to try and start your trade there and go toward the direction that the forecast is telling you to go. And the same with the 50, and the same with the 200. And they're also good places to where you can set your take profit that they'll typically touch and have support or resistance often. So we can talk more about this. They're very good for managing your trades on entry and exit. So that's what these 3 are for. The control EMAs are part of your signal. So if the green control EMA is on top or over the slow control EMA, this is a long signal. That means we're going higher. Now, if the green moves down and crosses below the red and is running under it, then that's a sell condition, and that'll show up in the forecast box. So these will dictate on what direction your trade is going to go. And how the strategy works is you only take a long or you only take a short based off the condition of the chart that's read through the forecast box. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that. Okay, let's get rid of the news and let's get rid of NASA. So your forecast box here is over on the left. Right now, our volume is not meeting the requirements to enter a trade on the low volume or the high. So let's talk about how the EMAs affect the condition of the box. So first of all, the control EMAs. If you look over here, this is the green control EMA and this is the red control EMA. Because the green is higher than the red, that means that we're in a long situation. But the reason the box is grayed out is because we don't meet our volume requirements. We have a volume range we have to be in order for the box to be turned on, because the signal will not be reliable unless we're in that volume band. Okay, your volume is this is your volume chart down here, so that's why it's gray. But right now, because the red, or I'm sorry, the green is on top of the red, we're in a sell. So we would only be looking at long trades to go long. So remember, I talked about the 20 EMA, which is right here. It's the yellow dot dash. This is the 50 EMA, the orange dot dash. And then the 200 is lagging behind way down here probably. It's way down here. So this moves a little slower. So if you want, if the box is green, if the volume was good, you might consider, hey, if I put my limit order on the 20 EMA, that might be a good place to take a trade, or a little below it. And then I would take a long, okay? So when price action, so your price action is where your price is. This line right here is where your price is. This is called the price line. This is your price line. So right now price is 26,451 and 25 cents. Because this price is above the 20 EMA, the 20 EMA will be red as long as our volume conditions are met. I'm sorry, will be green because we're above it. Green means higher. We're above the 50 and we're above the 200 EMA. So the entire box would be green if our volume was high enough in order for the signal to be valid, okay? So we would only be looking for a long, but you got to remember that entry is, you got to consider where you want to enter this trade. So if we were in a volume condition that was acceptable, maybe you're waiting to see if we tag the 50 to go higher, or maybe this here is a divergence from the VWAP, which we'll talk more about later. So depending on where you want, you got to really kind of think about your entry. But honestly, the trade, there really is no trade now, because your trade was really way back here when the control EMAs crossed, okay? Way down here, okay? So the original start of the long trade was way down here when they first crossed. So the signal comes, geez, my Louise. You got it. You see where they crossed? So right here, let's take a look. Right here, the yellow was below the red. So you were still in, right here was where the signal would have fired to go long, right? So this is your signal to go long. But you need the forecast cloud to be green in order to take the long. So you would have had, so right here the chart would have read green control EMA. The forecast cloud was red, so that would have been red. So once the forecast cloud turned green, then you're looking for an entry. So maybe you're sitting down here off the deviation from the VWAP, maybe the 50 EMA, you're going to take a little heat before it goes. But your trade would have been in here somewhere after the forecast cloud turned green, okay? So that's how your control EMAs work. That's your signal. Your alert would have went off, probably right in here. Your alert went off, tell you, the alert is an audio alert that says, hey, you're close to these EMAs crossing, so you might want to just check the chart out to see if this is a place you might want to take a trade. There is also an auto entry, which is up here. If the auto entry is selected, if the control EMAs cross inside the green forecast cloud, it'll wait for a confirmation and then it'll take the trade for you. But then you have to manage it after. We can talk more about that after. Um, but that's how your control EMAs work. And if you look here, this was the short. Okay, this was the short right there. They crossed to go down, but it would have been tough getting in because by the time they crossed, this would I would have probably never have taken this trade. It moved too fast. You know, this would have been a tough trade to take because you're all the way down here by the time the signal happens. But when it came back, we're in pretty good shape right here. This is a little better signal, and it's kind of caught up. So actually, honestly, the volume was probably too high. Yeah, it would have never fired because you're way over your volume band. If you look down here, you see the green lines. The price action has to be between the green lines. Let's see where it would have been here. Because your volume is broken into two different there we go. Yeah, it still would have been too high in the high volume. So your volume bands are broke between low and high on the MNQ because the chart reads different because there's so much volume. The Nasdaq is a very popular a very popular instrument, lots of volume. That's why people like it because you get a lot of movement. The short would have been great. The short would have been, or I'm sorry, the long right here would have been great. So the long would have been a good trade if you were in at that time, but you would have had to, really, you would have had to been there for the alert and get in on that. So that's basically how your control EMAs work to give you your signal, and that's how your fixed EMAs, fixed EMAs, the 20, the 50, and the 20. That's how you use them to figure out where you are on the chart. There's the upward pressure is crazy. We've been moving up, and I don't even know how. But anyway, all right. So, so the box will read this so you can watch it out of the corner of your eye, plus you'll have an alert so you don't have to stare at the chart and try and figure out what it means all day long as the lines go by. You can take your time, get used to it, and as it cycles through each of the signals, you'll start to really figure out how it runs, where the good setups are, and when you're in a strong up day, maybe it's good to pass on the shorts and just wait for it to confirm to go higher again. So you just kind of see what the rhythm of the day is and just try and match the rhythm of the day and wait for the signal and just try and skim a little off the top. You're only looking to make 50 to maybe $200 a trade when the signal comes, while you're working your plan A job, your regular job. That's the idea. So that's the control EMAs. That's how they work to bring you your signal. The forecast cloud represents buying and selling in this zone. So when the forecast cloud is green, that means in this area there's more buying than selling happening. It's like an order flow tracker from a 10,000-foot view. So this is just telling you there's more buyers in this zone than sellers. Over here, there were more sellers in this zone than buyers, and as the forecast cloud closes and gets smaller, and then it moves into green, that means there's fewer sellers, then all of a sudden the buyers take over, and then you'll see everything move in that direction. So the control EMAs in combination with the forecast cloud are what determine what direction you're gonna trade on. We're only looking at trading on one side or the other. We're not looking at, oh, we're going short now. This is not a range trading setup where you're just trying to trade, you're trying to bounce in between a range. We're only looking for direction change and momentum in that direction, and So we're only looking on one side of the trade at a time. We're not looking to trade a range and bounce back and forth. So we're just waiting for our setup. And when you're working 5 different instruments, you'll have multiple setups throughout the day. So you have multiple chances typically to make trades, right? Sometimes they come at the same time, and that's okay. You know, you'll learn more about that and how to manage it as you go. Or you can just work one chart and keep it simple. You don't want to overwhelm yourself because this is a lot of information to start with. So that's your forecast cloud. That's how that works. Your control EMAs, the 20, the 50, and the 200. Okay. So let's talk about the VWAP. The VWAP is very, very important. It's a very powerful indicator. It's volume weighted average for price. And the saying goes is price always comes back to the VWAP. I'll have a video just on this. So when you're above the VWAP is green. When you're below the VWAP turns red. So if you look all the way back here, no, we gotta go back half. All right. So the VWAP, um, where'd the VWAP go? Okay, VWAP was down here. So man, it's been a long. We've been working over the VWAP a long time. Okay, so right here, the VWAP turned from red to green right here. If you can take a look. So when price action is below the VWAP will be red, and the box for the VWAP will be red also. And one thing I want to let you know is I created a shaded area around the VWAP. You see this shaded area here? When price action is inside this shaded area, the box will go gray because it's a very volatile place to trade. You do not typically want to trade inside that zone because it's very unpredictable. A lot of people's VWAP trade and there's a lot of orders typically sitting all over this VWAP, and it can bounce the price up and down and it can chop you out. So when we're chopping around the VWAP, that's not a place to try and enter and figure out what's going on. So you want to pass on those type of situations. You see, like right here, um, right here, see we're chopping over and above the VWAP. This is very volatile. This is not a place to take a trade. So this trade right here to go long would have not been a trade because it crossed inside the red and then the red forecast cloud, and then it never came green till way back here. So this would have been a really hard trade to get in on. But this is the low volume. On the high volume, it might have looked better. Let's take a look. I know this is a lot of information. This is why I'm going to do the demo and I'm going to break it down more. But the thing is I have things so memorized, guys, and I just understand what I designed it. So when I look at it, sometimes it's hard for me to imagine the questions and what needs to be explained different to somebody who's never seen any of this stuff before. But if we look on the high volume chart for the MNQ, you see the trade looked a lot better here. You see, it was this trade, you could have taken this trade somewhere in this zone here, but the low volume is set up different because it's running on a lower. You'll understand volume and how volume can impact how the chart flows. You see, this is a horrible looking trade on low volume, but on high volume, it's not too bad. Like we got the cross, everything's moving up. Then we got the forecast cloud, and then boom, we got a pullback to nice entry zone. This would have been a nice entry zone if you were interested. If you weren't, somewhere in here might have been a nice entry zone, roughly. You blew through the 20, then the 50, and it held the deviation from the VWAP. So we also run 3 deviations from the VWAP, which I'll get into more later. This would have been the first deviation from the VWAP. The VWAP is down here. Okay. And we'll get more into what that is later. Now, a lot of this, like, you don't have to understand what it technically means. You just need to understand how to read the chart. So don't get hung up in having to technically understand what everything is and does. You need to read the chart. So it's kind of like a technician. Like if you've ever gotten a CAT scan or something, or if you've ever you know like a mechanic, like a technician in a dealership, he doesn't necessarily know the engineering behind how everything works, but he sure as hell can follow the manual and understand how to replace parts and do a diagnostic, and he knows how to use the tools and what they mean. So that's kind of the idea. So don't get hung up on understanding how everything specifically works and trying to re-engineer it. Don't waste a lot of time doing that. Just understand the flow of the chart, understand where your entry points are, and understand how to read it, and understand what the alerts mean. And then that can get you trading and working really fast. And then as time goes on, just pick one subject and don't overwhelm yourself. Understand one thing and then move to the next without stressing yourself out. You can just sit here and watch the chart go by, and you'll start to understand the flow of the chart, places, good places to get in and places to avoid. Um, the chart, if it's gray, that means you have no business on this particular instrument on this volume band. You don't take a trade. So if you find yourself wanting to, like, you think, well, this looks good for a long, and you take a trade here, I'm going to tell you that through back testing, hours and hours and hours, it's a low percentage trade. You'll get pounded out to your stop loss more than you'll win. That's why it's grayed out. If you don't believe me, be my guest, try and prove me wrong, and just start doing your own thing. But my advice would be just load the templates up the way they're set. Let it run and just do what the chart says. If the chart says it's okay to take a long, find a good entry. And if you like the area and you think that we're in a trend going in one direction or the other, go ahead and take the long. If we're at the very beginning of the move, see right now it's kind of looking like we're going to roll over. So I would wait for the short here. It's looking like the control EMAs are going to cross and go to a short position or go lower. Short is lower. So, I'd be waiting for those to cross, and when the forecast cloud turns red, then look for an entry to go short, and then maybe we'll go all the way back to the VWAP. But you got to be careful, because the 50 EMA, like I had said, these are places of resistance and support. So the 50 EMA is supporting price right now. So I would wait for the signals to go short, and then maybe look for an entry. And if we can break below the 50, then maybe we got a trade on our hands. So that's kind of how I would read this chart right here. But until this lights up, you have nothing. So there is nothing until that lights up. So let's go look on the lower. So now when your alerts are on, you'll get an alert that tells you that you're close to a possible trade because the EMAs are about to touch. And then when the alert comes across, if you got it set up for your phone or if you got it on the desktop, I have an iPad right next to my work rig, and it will tell me what instrument. So all I got to do is, it'll say low volume MNQ, and then boom, I pick low volume. Or if it says high volume, I go here. If it's the MES, I'll move over to that chart. See right here, we're close. See, this is looking good, but the problem is we don't have enough volume for it to be reliable. So it's tasty, but I'm not going to take it because my box is not on. If the forecast box is gray, that means it's a no trade condition. Okay, so yeah, we could drift down, or a bunch of volume could come in and it could push us right back up to the high. You don't know, because we don't have enough volume to make a good decision. We're way below. We need at least 1500 on a 3-bar average. And if you look down here, the blue line tells you what your average is. But we'll get more into, I'll do a video just on volume later on. But that's basically right there. Now, if you wanted to take a trade, you could enter long and you could enter short. Okay, this is your your automated trade management that's built straight into the strategy. Okay, so if I did want to go short, I could enter, and this would be a market enter short. I'm not going to do it. It's no point. But it would enter my short. I'm going to do a video just on the ATM here right after this video, but I just wanted to do a basic introduction of the forecast box, how to read it, and what the indicators meant within that. So the next video I'm going to do, I'll do on the ATM. Okay. So if you have any questions on what this means, how to read it, um, you can go ahead and hop on over to the stream or hop into the demo at night, um, and I'll walk through any questions you have. But I need you to make sure I need to make sure that you're watching the videos so that I know what you've already what you've already been exposed to, so I can kind of understand where your question's coming from, and I can maybe find more clear upfront ways of explaining things so you can get working quickly. The whole idea is just to understand the flow, how to use how to interpret the chart based off the forecast box and the basic flow of the actual price action in order to make a decision on your entries, um, your entry location and direction. That's the idea. If you can do that, then you can get in right away and you'll be okay. But anyway, I'll see you on the next one. We'll go over the how you enter, what all these buttons mean over here on the right. We'll go over those next on the next video. All right, Weatherman out.